What if I told you there's a house in America where no one has ever survived more than a single night? A place so cursed that every person who entered was either never seen again or came out so broken they refused to speak of what happened inside. Would you believe me, or would you laugh it off until the day you stood in front of it yourself? That's exactly what happened to Ethan Carter. Ethan wasn't the type to believe in ghost stories. He was 23, loud, cocky, the kind of guy who treated horror like a joke. If there was ever a haunted house on TV, he'd laugh, "Man, I'd sleep there for a week if someone paid me." So when his friends dared him to spend one night inside the Blackwood House, a rotting Victorian mansion on the outskirts of a small Pennsylvania town, Ethan didn't hesitate. "Piece of cake," he smirked. "I'll stream the whole thing if I can get a signal. You'll see me having a beer, watching Netflix, and laughing while nothing happens." But the people in town didn't laugh. The locals avoided the Blackwood House like it carried the plague. It had been abandoned since the 1970s after the last family, parents and 2 children, vanished without a trace. Their dinner table had still been set with food when investigators arrived. No signs of forced entry. No footprints leaving the house. Just gone. And that wasn't the only story. In the decades since, thrill seekers and ghost hunters had tried their luck. None lasted longer than a single night. Some ran out screaming before midnight. Others weren't found until morning, wandering the road in shock, whispering the same thing over and over again. "The house doesn't want you to leave." Ethan thought it was just urban legend nonsense. He grabbed a flashlight, a backpack, and his phone, and by dusk he was standing at the edge of the cracked driveway. The house loomed against the blood-red sunset, its windows like empty sockets staring at him. The porch sagged, the door tilted slightly, as if it had been waiting decades for another victim to walk through. Ethan laughed under his breath, but something about that silence, the way even the crickets seemed to stop, made his skin prickle. He pushed the door open. The smell hit him first. Not just mold and dust, but something metallic. Something like dried blood. Inside, the air was thick, heavy, almost pressing against his chest. The floorboards groaned beneath his boots. The wallpaper peeled in long strips, revealing strange scratches carved into the wood beneath. He ran his hand across one and realized they weren't random. They were words. "Let me out." He froze, but then he smirked, shaking his head. "Nice touch," he muttered to himself. Probably some other idiot trying to scare the next person. He set up his phone on the dusty mantle and hit record. His voice filled the silence. "All right, guys, here we go. I'm officially inside the Blackwood House. If I don't make it out alive, tell my mom I love her." He forced a laugh. It sounded hollow. The first hour passed uneventfully. He explored the house, narrating for his non-existent audience. The kitchen was a graveyard of rusted utensils and shattered plates. The living room still had a torn armchair facing a fireplace filled with ashes that looked disturbingly fresh. But it was the upstairs hallway that got to him. Every door was shut except one, the last one at the end of the hall. It stood slightly open, swaying as if someone had just stepped inside. Ethan grinned nervously at the camera. "Classic horror movie setup, right? Guess I gotta check it out." He pushed the door wider with his flashlight. It was a child's bedroom. The wallpaper was covered in faded cartoon animals, their faces twisted by peeling paper. A tiny wooden bed sat in the corner, and on the bed was a doll. Not just any doll, but one so lifelike it made Ethan recoil. Its porcelain face was cracked, one glass eye missing, the other staring directly at him. And then, right as Ethan whispered, "Creepy as hell," the doll's head turned. Ethan froze, the breath catching in his throat. Had he really seen it move? Or was his mind just playing tricks on him? He stood there, flashlight trembling in his hand, staring at the doll. Its cracked face remained still, glass eyes staring blankly, but he couldn't shake the memory of that subtle, deliberate turn. "Okay, that was weird," he muttered, forcing a laugh that didn't sound like him at all. He reached forward, hesitated, then snatched the doll up. It was cold, unnaturally cold, like ice. The porcelain head lolled slightly to the side as though it were too heavy for its tiny body. "See?" Ethan told the camera, his voice louder now, compensating for his unease. "Just an old doll. Nothing creepy about that." But as he turned to leave the room, the door slammed shut. The sound cracked through the silence like a gunshot. Ethan spun around, his heart hammering. He lunged for the knob, but when he yanked, it wouldn't budge. Locked. From the outside. He cursed under his breath, pounding on the door. "Very funny, guys. If you're out there messing with me, you better knock it off." Silence. Only the sound of something faint, like a child humming in the corner. Ethan whipped around. The doll wasn't in his hand anymore. It was sitting neatly back on the bed. His pulse spiked. He looked at his empty hand, then back at the doll. His brain fought to rationalize. Maybe I dropped it. Maybe I set it down and didn't realize. But deep down, he knew that wasn't true. The humming grew louder, high-pitched, off-key, coming from everywhere at once, like the walls themselves were singing. Ethan's flashlight flickered, the beam sputtering across the peeling wallpaper. And then, footsteps. Small, rapid footsteps pattering across the floor above him. He bolted back to the door, slamming his shoulder against it. This time, it swung open so hard he nearly fell into the hallway. The humming stopped. Panting, Ethan stumbled backward into the hall. His camera, still recording downstairs, wouldn't have caught any of that. No one would believe him. But as he steadied his breath, he noticed something new. Every door along the hallway was open now. Each one revealed a room, dark and gaping, as if waiting for him. He swallowed hard. Nope, not happening. He stomped down the stairs, gripping the railing tight. I said one night in this place, not exploring every creepy corner. At the bottom, the living room felt colder. His phone was still recording from the mantel, the little red light blinking. Ethan sat heavily in the dusty chair, forcing himself to calm down. "It's just nerves," he whispered to the camera. "That's all. Old house, creaky boards, my imagination running wild." But even as he said it, something inside the fireplace hissed. He turned. The ashes were glowing faintly red, as if embers were buried deep within. And in the glow, a handprint appeared on the bricks, small, child-sized. The soot darkened, fingers spreading slowly across the wall. Ethan's bravado cracked. He grabbed his phone from the mantel, ending the recording. He needed proof. He needed to get out. But when he turned to leave, the front door was gone. Not locked. Not stuck. Gone. Where the door should have been was now a wall, wallpaper curling over smooth plaster as though the entrance had never existed. Ethan's stomach dropped. He spun in circles, looking for another way out, but every window was the same. Boards nailed shut, some with wallpaper stretched across them like skin. The house had closed him in. Something creaked behind him. Slow, deliberate, like someone stepping onto the floorboards. Ethan turned, flashlight trembling, and in the corner of the room, just barely visible in the glow of dying embers, stood a little girl. Her dress was old-fashioned, white turned yellow with age. Her face was pale, hollow, her eyes dark pits that seemed to swallow the light. She tilted her head at him, lips curling into a smile that wasn't a child's smile at all. "Welcome home," she whispered. Ethan's body went rigid. The little girl stood no more than 10 feet away, her hollow eyes fixed on him, that unnatural smile stretching too wide. I'm not staying," Ethan stammered, flashlight beam shaking as it slid across her face. "You're not real. You're just in my head." But when he blinked, she was gone. The room was empty. Only the faint smell of smoke lingered, mingling with the metallic tang that had clung to the house since the moment he entered. Ethan pressed his back against the wall, forcing his breathing to slow. Okay. Hallucinations," he muttered. "That's all. Old paint, mold spores, tricking my brain. Yet as he spoke, the house groaned around him. The sound wasn't the casual creak of settling wood. It was deep, resonant, like something enormous shifting its weight. Ethan froze. The floor beneath his boots rose slightly, then fell again, as if the house itself was breathing. He staggered back, clutching his flashlight. No, that's not possible. The air grew thicker, heavier, pressing against his lungs. He could hear it now. A faint inhale, and then a long, shuddering exhale. The wallpaper rippled along the walls as though caught in a draft that didn't exist. And then came the voices. Not loud, just a whisper. A chorus of whispers, overlapping, impossible to make out. They slithered from the walls, from the ceiling, from the floorboards beneath his feet. Ethan clamped his hands over his ears, but it didn't matter. The voices were inside his skull. Stay. Don't leave. Stay with us forever. Panic clawed at his chest. He bolted into the hallway, taking the stairs 2 at a time, his boots thudding against the groaning boards. He didn't know where he was running, only that he had to move, had to escape whatever this was. But the upstairs hallway was different now. The doors weren't just open. They were gone. The hallway stretched into impossible distance, longer than the house could contain, shadows bending and twisting. The wallpaper shifted as he moved, patterns changing, words forming. No escape. No escape. No escape. He stumbled, clutching the railing. His flashlight flickered, sputtered, then went out entirely, plunging him into a darkness so absolute it felt solid. A child's giggle echoed, right next to his ear. Ethan spun, swinging the dead flashlight like a weapon, but there was nothing. Only blackness. His breath came in ragged gasps. He fumbled for his phone, turning on the flashlight app. The beam cut through the dark, shaky, but enough to reveal the floor. And the footprints. Small, wet footprints appeared one by one, leading down the hallway. The sound of dripping water followed them. Pat, 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 as if someone had just walked through a stream. Ethan should have run the other way. But some invisible pull dragged him forward, step after trembling step, until he reached the end of the hall. The footprints stopped at a door that hadn't been there before. It was massive, blackened wood with iron hinges, ancient and wrong in this Victorian house. The air around it pulsed with that same breathing rhythm, as though the door itself was alive. Ethan swallowed hard, every instinct screaming at him not to touch it. But the whispers returned, louder now, urging him. Open it. See what waits. Open it. His hand trembled as he reached for the iron handle. It burned against his palm, hot like fire, but he turned it anyway. The door swung open. Beyond was no room, no hallway, just a stairwell spiraling down into pitch-black nothingness. The air rushing up smelled of rot, earth, and something older than time. From below came the faint sound of crying. A child's sobs, desperate and broken. "Hello?" Ethan called down, his voice cracking. The crying stopped, and a voice, raspy, inhuman, echoed up from the depths. "We've been waiting for you, Ethan." Ethan's blood turned to ice. The voice that rose from the stairwell wasn't human, not entirely. It rasped like rust scraping against bone, but it spoke his name clearly, deliberately. He staggered back, phone trembling in his hand. "No, no way, you don't know me." The stairwell pulsed with heat, exhaling a wave of foul air that stank of rot and damp earth. The crying resumed, louder now, mixed with faint laughter. Children's laughter. It wrapped around him, pulling at his chest like invisible hooks. Against every ounce of reason, Ethan felt himself stepping forward. Down the first stair, then the second. The wood groaned under his weight, each step sinking slightly, as though the stairs themselves didn't want him to leave once he started. The deeper he went, the tighter the air grew. His flashlight cut through only a few feet of darkness, swallowed quickly like water closing over a stone. The whispers returned, louder, echoing around him. "Keep going. Almost home. Keep going." Sweat dripped down his temple. His knuckles whitened around the railing, but still, he descended. The walls closed in, rough stone now instead of plaster. This wasn't part of the original house. This was older. Much older. At last, the stairs ended in a cavernous chamber. His light revealed a floor of packed dirt, walls marked with strange, spiraling carvings that seemed to writhe when he looked at them too long. In the center of the chamber stood a long wooden table, and on that table were toys. Dozens of them. Dolls, teddy bears, tin soldiers, old, broken, some blackened as though scorched by fire. They were arranged neatly, like offerings. Ethan's throat tightened. He lifted his phone higher, the beam of light shaking. The carvings around the chamber seemed to pulse with that same breathing rhythm. And then he saw them. Figures. At first he thought they were mannequins, standing motionless in the far corners of the room. But as his light moved closer, his stomach dropped. They weren't mannequins. They were people, or what was left of them. Bodies stood upright, faces pale and slack, eyes open but glazed. Their mouths hung slightly open as though frozen mid-scream. Dust covered their clothes, some modern, some decades old. One still clutched a camera. Another wore a backpack. All of them lifeless. Ethan stumbled back, gagging. His phone shook violently in his grip. Oh God, oh God! That was when one of them moved. A man near the wall, his neck twisted unnaturally to the side, tilted his head further, eyes rolling to meet Ethan's. His jaw cracked open wider, bones popping, and in a voice that didn't belong to him, he whispered, "Stay." Ethan bolted for the stairs, but the opening was gone. The stairwell had sealed itself into solid stone. He spun in panic, heart hammering, but the chamber was shifting. The bodies began to twitch, jerking like puppets pulled by invisible strings. The whispers rose into a deafening chorus, the carvings glowing faintly red. From the shadows, the little girl appeared again. Her hollow eyes fixed on him, her cracked smile wider than ever. She walked slowly toward the table of toys, fingers brushing across them lovingly. "This is where we all stay," she said softly. Her voice was layered now, as if dozens of others spoke through her. "The house keeps us, it feeds." Ethan shook his head violently. No, I'm not staying here. You can't make me." Her head tilted, almost pitying. "You already belong to it." As she spoke, the bodies around the chamber stepped forward in unison, surrounding him. Their jaws creaked, their eyes rolled, and in perfect harmony they whispered, "Breathe with us." The air in the chamber thickened, pressing against his chest. Ethan gasped, clutching his throat, his lungs burning. The house was trying to force its rhythm into him, to make him inhale and exhale with its ancient pulse. His vision blurred. Spots danced across his eyes. The whispers became a roar. And then, the phone slipped from his hand, hitting the dirt floor with a crack. The light spun wildly before dying, plunging him into blackness. In that final second before he lost consciousness, Ethan heard the house speak directly into his skull. "You were always meant to be ours." Darkness swallowed Ethan whole. For what felt like hours, he drifted in and out of consciousness, lungs aching, chest rising and falling in rhythm with the suffocating pulse of the house. When his eyes finally fluttered open, he wasn't in the chamber anymore. He was in a bedroom, not the ruined, rotting rooms he had explored before. This one was immaculate. The wallpaper bright, the bed neatly made, toys scattered across the floor as though waiting for children to return. Sunlight poured through the window. Ethan sat up slowly, disoriented. What? Where? The air smelled of cinnamon and warm bread. From downstairs came the faint clatter of dishes, the soft hum of a woman singing. It was normal. Too normal. He stood, legs trembling, and crept into the hall. The doors were all closed now, but one stood ajar. He peeked inside. Another bedroom. 2 beds. The covers pulled back, as if children had only just woken. His stomach knotted. A voice floated up the stairs. "Ethan, breakfast is ready." He froze. That voice, it was his mother's. Heart pounding, Ethan descended slowly. The stairs didn't creak. The air was warm and bright. The kitchen lay ahead, exactly like the one from his childhood home. And there, at the table, sat his parents, alive, smiling, waiting for him. His mother beamed. "We've missed you, honey." His father's voice was warm, steady. "Come sit. You're home now." Ethan's throat tightened. This couldn't be real. His parents had died in a car crash 5 years ago. He had buried them. "This isn't..." His voice broke. "You're not real." But as he stared at them, tears stung his eyes. They looked so alive. The smell of pancakes filled the air. His father's watch gleamed on his wrist, exactly the way it always had. "Ethan," his mother said gently, "don't fight it. The house gives you what you want. You don't have to leave. You don't have to be alone anymore." The words burrowed into his brain like hooks. A home, a family, safety, everything he had lost. He took a step forward, then another. The warmth of the kitchen wrapped around him like a blanket. His father patted the chair at the head of the table. "Sit, son. Stay." Ethan's hand reached for the chair, then stopped. Something was wrong. The wallpaper. The pattern was the same spirals he'd seen carved into the cavern walls. Subtle, but pulsing faintly, alive. His mother's smile faltered, her lips twitching too wide. Her eyes flickered black for the briefest moment. And then Ethan knew. This wasn't his family. This was the house. He stumbled back, shaking his head violently. "No, you're not them. You're just another trick." The illusion shattered. The kitchen walls rotted away, the smell of cinnamon replaced by mold and blood. His parents' faces twisted, skin peeling back, jaws unhinging as dozens of voices poured from their throats at once. "Stay. Stay. Stay." The table stretched toward him like a living thing, its wood splitting into grasping tendrils. He screamed, wrenching free, bolting back into the hallway. The house howled in fury, the walls shaking, doors slamming one by one. He ran blindly, floors shifting beneath his feet, stairs spiraling in impossible directions. The whispers were deafening now, thousands of voices demanding, pleading, ordering him to stay. Finally, he crashed through a door and found himself back in the original living room. The fireplace glowed with faint embers. The doll sat in the chair where he had once been, and on the mantel, his phone lay neatly propped up, recording. The red light blinked. Ethan stumbled forward, grabbing it. The screen showed the entire night's footage, his exploration, his panic, even the descent into the hidden chamber. But when he scrubbed forward to the latest clip, his stomach turned to ice. It wasn't him on the screen. It was the little girl, sitting in the chair, staring directly into the lens. She smiled. "He belongs to us now." The phone slipped from his hands. Ethan turned toward the wall where the front door should have been. For the first time since entering, it was there again, whole, waiting. His chest heaved. He sprinted, slamming it open, bursting into the cold night air, grass beneath his feet, crickets chirping, stars overhead. He fell to his knees, gasping. He had made it. He had escaped. Or so he thought. Because when he looked back, there was no house. Only empty field. No Blackwood House. No rotting Victorian mansion. Nothing at all. And in the reflection of his phone's black screen, he saw it. His own face. Cracked like porcelain. One eye missing. The same as the doll. The whispers surged inside his skull. The truth slammed into him with the force of a sledgehammer. No one had ever left the Blackwood House. Not really. Because once you entered, you became part of it. Forever.